This is 3 images that I've chose my final select from each set, and now I'm in Lightroom, and I always start my development process in Lightroom and then I export images in Photoshop and finish it there. So let's start. So this is the first image, and first what I'm going to do is convert it to black and white, just and so, and then I'm going to see, so since everything black and the only color is actually color of my body, which is orange and yellow, I'm going to play with it a little bit. I darkened the reds a little bit for the red lip because I wanted to appear black. Okay, just as so. And now let's see, highlights maybe. A little bit of the whites. I don't have any particular starting point. I always, each picture I edit separately. Just tweak and see what looks best. Okay, so I think I'm happy for now. It's just a starting point. It's not the final edit, but I think I'm done here. And what I usually do is whenever I have a set, I just copy settings and paste them onto the other ones and have them as starting point as well, and then see if I want to tweak anything. And for the last one, I will lighten skin a little bit more by bringing orange and yellow lighter. Okay, so this is now my starting point. I'm happy with the original image, kind of with the initial starting point, and now I'm going to export them to the Photoshop and continue there. So now I have all 3 files in Photoshop, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to pre-edit them, such as extend the background, do the frequency separation and dodging and burning, retouch the skin to save time, and then I'm going to come back and already show you how I finalized the actual black and white edit. Back now, I added 3 images. So this is the first one. This is the edited version. So as you see, I extended background a little bit, work on the posture and smooth down the shadows. Okay, so first, whenever I do with all images, especially black and white, is I'm going to usually, most of the time, I prefer levels over the curves. I feel it's simpler. They do basically the same button most time. And now I'm working, bringing up more contrast, just see what works the best. I can add more drama and create just kind of highlights, just the lights showing. Make sure that you don't create any hotspots. So that's why the histogram is here for. I think it's a little bit too much on the shadows. I can bring down the blacks a little bit, so just as so. So you can create just highlights. It's really up to the image. Now I'm working, just see what works for me. Okay, I think I'm happy now. But you see what I noticed, that the arm that is closer, it's a little bit darker, so I'll try to do it a little bit lighter now and see if I like it better. And to do that, I'm going to use one more levels adjustment layer, and I'll brighten up I actually like it very black and white, vibrant, just as so overall. But let's do the arm first. And I'm going to hit Command Delete. And now the mask, as you see, turned black. And I'm going to take a brush, make sure it's white, and I'm going to paint over the arm to see if I like it more that way. I'm not settled yet. So in editing process, usually I do try many things. Okay, before and after. Maybe bring down opacity a little bit. Maybe a little bit less. Because I still want to create it naturally, because obviously the face and this arm was closer to the source of light, and naturally this arm will be a little bit darker. And now I'm thinking I will bring up the whites a little bit more. Yeah, I'm happy with this. And now the finished, what I usually do for my black and white images is I'm going to gradient map, and I choose the regular black and white gradient. So you see the difference? And now I'll play with opacity, because this is really the final touch, and this is really brings that high contrast. But you can leave it as 100%. It will depend on the image, or you can play with the opacity. Because whenever you leave it 100%, it almost doesn't have any grace, like any transitions. So it will really depend on the image, what is it you want. So let me group them, and I'll show you. So this is the before, and this is after the adjustments. I'm going back to my level, just a final touch. Make sure that I like it. Also, what I would suggest you, I don't usually do it for the high key black and white, but for the low key, just as this one, you can also go to the, again, gradient map, and you can play around. Do you see this? There's gradient, there's different filters in presets, and in case you don't see them, then you can press this little gear here, and you can make and there is different different presets. So this one I believe is photographic tonic, and whenever you, let's say, photographic tonic, replace current gradient with the gradient from photographic tonic, you can say okay, and then it will replace, and there it will be have only gradients from photographic tonic. Or what I usually do is I click append. Append, it will add on to the gradients that you already have. Well, I press cancel because I already have them. And here you can play around. So what happens, the reason I don't use it for whenever I have high key, just because I want that white, clean white look usually. But for low key, I like that shadows. Black is not necessarily just black, because sometimes it looks too plain and boring. So whatever you play with the gradients, it actually adds some hue to the blacks and shadows, and it might look more interesting. So we just play with different gradients and see how it looks. And of course you don't have to leave it that way. I just see if I like the general look, because you can always lower the opacity. Well, that's one more fantasy ones. Anyways, I actually thought that the first one was quite cool, and we can lower opacity just a tiny bit. So you see the before and the after. It get that kind of brownish hue to it. And for the low key, I usually like to add a little bit color there, just because I feel it doesn't look as plain as just simple black. But of course, it's all up to you, the way you like to add it. And you can add any hue. You can also play with let me show. You can also play, I'll put this one, I'll turn off the color, the gradient map that brings up the hue, and you can just play, of course, with curves, and you can maybe add some blue into shadows or some yellowish. But I personally don't really like to work with curves for black and white, or you can also use color balance layer, and you can add some colors here. So for example, into the shadows you can add some blues or maybe even magenta, some reddish, really up to you. This is a creative process. Kind of like when there is a little bit redness in the shadow, just a tiny bit. I just plus treat it a tiny bit. So yes, keep in mind that if it's black and white picture, it doesn't mean that there is absolutely no colors, that there is just black and white. This can be, you can color grade it just like any other picture. It just might be not as pronounced, but still coloring your black and white pictures will also give that extra polished, extra, interesting look. I'm debating, should I leave the brownish ones or not. My personal trick is whenever I debate on should I leave some layer or not, then I just usually lower the opacity like in half. Okay, I guess I'm happy now. So let me show you. So this is the picture original, just original edit that we have from the Lightroom. And this is all the adjustments that we added. And that is will be my final edit, so I'm going to save it. And let's go to the next one. Okay, so this is the second image. This is the one that I exported from Lightroom. This is what I did pre-edit. I just, as you see, I extended background as well, and with the shadow, I just draw it on. I smoothed out the shadows on the face a little bit, and that's about it. And now let's do the same. First, I'm going to levels, adjustment layer, and you see we can really bring up the light to hit the white color. Yes, looks good. Actually quite happy with the maybe shadows tiny bit and the blacks. And the next, I'm going to go to the gradient, and I'm going to choose black and white just as so. And you see how dramatic it's gotten. So this was before, and this is the after. So as I say, for the black and white gradient, again, it's really depend on the image, but I would not recommend it to usually leave it as is, 100% opacity, just because it erases all the grays, all the midtones, and created very high contrast. And that is okay, and that's what actually you do for the high key portraits, and I will probably show it in the last example. But whenever it's like this, I would prefer maybe to lower opacity just a tiny bit. Well, you know what, for this particular, just because it's about black and white, it really reminds chess, because this is pictures, it's all about black and white. I will probably not color grade it at all. I will just leave it as so, just because it is about black and white. And let's see the difference with the adjustments that we add. So this was the before and this is after. So you see that for this particular image, the adjustments I make, they're very subtle, just because I think the original image already high contrast. I like everything about the original image, so I don't think that I want to really temper a lot with the lights and shadows and everything. So that will be my final edit for this one. Okay, and this was the third image that I exported from Lightroom. This is the edit that I did. I lower a shoulder a little bit, and that's what I usually do for any beauty photography. I just feel it looks more elegant and sophisticated, and I smooth down the skin a little bit, touch up the eyeliner and the lips, make it more sharper. And now let's go with the editing. So okay, with this particular, whenever I do high key and white background, as you see, it's not completely 100% white. So how to make it 100% white is, first I'll go again to adjustment levels and I bring them too white. So now I know that this point here is the whitest point. So I know theirs is probably like a pure white. Great. But it's not white everywhere. How to fix that? Very simple. Again, I'm going to create a new layer, and now we are going to gradient tool, and I'm going to select the second one, which is white, going to transparent, and hit OK. For some reason I didn't, yes, okay, hit OK. And now just drag it, just as so. Okay, beautiful. And I'm going to select a quick selection tool, and make sure that you on your original picture level, and I'm going to press select subject just for convenience, and make sure to select now with your gradient layer. Shift Command I to invert the selection. So now I actually select the outside, not the subject. I select background, and I just press the mask, and here you go. This is the before, and this is the after. Before and after, just as so. And if your mask, just as so, here, select it a little bit rough, just choose the brush and refine the mask. So I make sure that I leave some flyaways, just to make it look more natural. Before, after, before, after. Now we have this absolutely perfect white background. After that, I'm going again to my gradient, just as I showed you before. Reverse, beautiful. And for this particular, as I said, for high key photography, for high key portraits, I can leave sometime 100% opacity or lower it a little bit, just because it goes better with high key style. And let me go to the levels and see, maybe I want to work with the shadows a little bit. And I think I'm done. I'm actually quite pleased with the result. Maybe let's make opacity of the gradient level a little bit higher, just to make it super contrasty, just as so. And let's group it and see how our adjustments went. So this is the before adjustments and the gradient, and this is the after. And this is how you get that vintage fashion style images. As you see, that is very simple, just a few steps. Just adjust your highlights, shadows and blacks with the level adjustment layer, and then go to the gradient tool, choose black and white, or you can choose some color grading as well, like a picture tonic gradients, for maybe if you want to color it. And let me show you 3 side by side. And here you got it. And this is how I edit my black and white images. And now you see all my tricks and tools that I use. Hopefully you found it useful and you enjoyed it. Please remember to subscribe to my channel for more interesting information just like that. Like if you like it, and comment down below which look your favorite. If you have any idea that you want me to make a video about, then I'll consider it. And lots of love. See you next time. Bye bye.